Hey everyone, welcome back to another layout update. I've recently been doing a lot of work on the layout, and the last layout update that I recall was before I even started putting up the electrification, so I might go over that. But before that, I just want to go over the Benchwork a little bit here. I have done a little bit of work regarding that. I've just been looking at alignment and such, and nothing is set up permanently. I mean, theoretically nothing really is permanent in terms of model railroads, but I've put in these little, I don't even know what you could call these, fill-ins maybe, to bridge the gaps between these larger rectangular tables. This one I think is the better of the two I've done so far. It just kind of supports the outer edge of this 060 track. And then on the 042 here, which is obviously going to be replaced in the future, and I've made myself clear in a few videos talking about how the whole outer loop's just going to be 060, and this is a stopgap for now. But I just kind of put this in. We did the math, but I still don't entirely trust it, so if I end up getting the 060 and it ends up not falling within the scope of this, when I put it up, I'm gonna reorientate it so that it will. I'm hoping that once I eventually get the track for this, it's gonna fit like a glove, and it's gonna be smooth sailing from there. As you've seen in a community post that I made, I finished painting some Chicago Northwestern units. There's another one over there. It took me about 4 months to get the gumption to actually make the decals and throw them on these, but I think now I can call these relatively complete. They're missing some detail parts, but beyond that, sorry, this is not giving you the best look at it. Beyond that, these are alright. If you want a better look at them, look at the community post, but yeah, these are nice engines. And I am absolutely digging the look of one CNNW F unit with two heavyweight passenger cars. It just kind of feels like an obscure Midwest train that like barely carried anyone. Moving on to the Canary, I actually have I have a video showing the first tests of it, and I have a video showing how I made the first sort of batch of these Canary poles. Since then I've changed a few things. So initially I built from out from here. I built out to around this pole, and then I built out to right about here. And there were a variety of challenges I had to accomplish. For example, I didn't think the entire bench worked through, and there wasn't any space for Canary poles here. So luckily, I was somehow able to put together this little extension, and it's completely flush and it looks okay. I would rather it not be here, but once I sort of round out the edges of everything and fill in these gaps, I think it should look perfectly fine and work perfectly fine, more importantly. Then I ended up painting the Canary poles black to kind of get a better idea of how it would look when it was more complete. The next thing I did was I sort of reassessed the height of these poles because I didn't really think that much about the height. I just kind of went with my initial thoughts on what seems like the correct height, but then I went in and measured the height of my engines with the pantographs up from the rail head to the top of the pantograph, and I ended up coming up with this height, which between the rail and the overhead wire, I think I have the numbers somewhere. What I ended up compromising with was 5.2 inches, which is maybe, I think it was like 7 inches higher, or 7 inches, 0.7 inches higher than what I had initially chosen for the height of the wire. So I put the poles up on some better foundations, I guess you could say. So I upgraded all of that, and then over here I extended it by 3 poles. So we're sort of moving this direction, but beyond this point, I'm not entirely sure what this is going to look like, so I might not bother with these. They are a snap for me to take down and repurpose if I end up not having things finalized over here, which of course I don't. But, you know, these won't be too hard to modify for different uses and to take out or put in where I need them. So, not much else to say there. In terms of the electrical for the layout, I added a couple feeder wires. There's a feeder wire right here, a feeder wire back there, and a feeder wire over there. Again, these are just running on the table. We're starting to get into spaghetti territory, but that is mostly just for testing it and temporary stuff. I'm just kind of getting an idea of how I'm going to wire this layout, and I think having 4 feeders, one right here, one right there, one over there, and another one over there will sort of be the best solution. I could wire a feeder to every single piece of track, which I might, but then again, I think all I might need are just the 4 feeders, kind of dividing the layout into quarters. In terms of the more mechanical stuff, or geometric stuff, I don't know what the correct phrase is, but I've been doing a little bit of banking and super elevating on the track. It's very noticeable here, at least in person. So let's start at this curve. I initially had this a lot more dramatic, but the some of the passenger cars, especially these with the 6-axle configuration, did not like that, and they kept the railing over here, so I just kind of flattened that out a little bit. It doesn't have to be that super elevated for me to run things quickly. Then over here, it's actually pretty super elevated. Let me just put my camera down flat on the table. I don't know if you can really make out how the line is angled inwards so that I can run trains a little faster without having to worry about it flying off. And plus, it just kind of looks cool. I cannot wait until I get the scenery on this area eventually. That's not going to be a in the near future thing. I think it's going to take a bit for me to finalize everything. Again, this is all very much permanent, or very much temporary. I could take down everything in this section of the table in a couple hours carefully if I wanted to, but so far this is just for my own enjoyment right now and for testing and knowing what I'm doing going into this project. I think the idea of this right-of-way is, I guess, in-world, if that makes sense, going to be a mixed-use right-of-way, at least in terms of the railroad, because the outer loop, as you can tell, like, it's very super elevated. This one is going to be very slightly super elevated, but it's not going to be as dramatic. The outer loop is going to very much sort of play as the high-speed passenger and maybe some freight line. It's mostly meant for, like, passenger trains. And of course, since it has overhead electrification, that means that it's sort of a more well-trafficked corridor. The inner loop, what I want to go for is maybe slightly less well-kept, like not decrepit, but possibly, you know, a few classes lower in the American way of scoring track quality. It's just going to be a, I guess, lower speed line for mostly freight trains, maybe some slow passenger trains. The main function of the inner loop is just going to be so I can run things that are a little taller than my Canary structures. And since I raised the height of these, I think these will fit a lot of the things that I need. Like, they can fit double stack containers, they can fit auto rack cars. I don't know about double-decker passenger trains, because I pre-ordered some Atlas bi-level passenger cars for Metra, and I'm not quite sure if they'll run under the Canary lines, but if they don't, it's fine because I have the inner loop. Other than that, there really haven't been too much changes in terms of the direction of the layout. I'm very much sort of continuing into the plan of a urban layout. Again, with the right-of-way, I'm going for a sort of half high-speed electrified line and half lower speed, sort of more industrial railroad freight line on the inner loop. But yeah, beyond that, nothing's really changed. I think there's a lot to do in the future, and there's a lot that I'm sort of planning and thinking about now. So thanks for all your support recently, and I'll see you guys soon. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.